Welcome to Forum 360 on Fusion, your PBS channel. Thank you for joining us on our global outlook with a local view. This is Leslie Ungar, your host today. There's a new player in downtown Akron. You might want to stop by and say hello sometime. This new neighbor lives at Lock 3 and is the new Akron Children's Museum, an interactive museum for young children offering exhibits on science, technology, health, and culture. With us today is their first executive director, Traci Buckner, who comes to the museum and to us today with an extensive background in leading STEM education. STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and math. Both STEM and the Children's Museum work to create lifelong learners to provide innovative leadership inspired by creativity. We welcome you, Traci, to tell us all about innovative leadership, fun, and a little bit of learning in there, too, right?
Hi, Leslie. Thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure. And I can say I have been a good neighbor, so I came to say hello, right?
Yes, you did.
Before we talk about the museum, let's talk about you and your history.
Okay.
You are the principal of the first STEM school in Akron.
Correct.
So no matter how many more there are, there will never be a first again. From an interview that I did with you and a student, Connor, several years ago, your first year, I remember terms like lifelong learner and PBL, problem-based learning. How has your career in education and STEM prepared you for this role as executive director of the Akron Children's Museum?
You know, it really seems like just a natural progression for me. Those terms that you mentioned are still the same terms that we're fostering there at the museum. The only difference is in the STEM environment there at the National Inventors Hall of Fame School is it was a formal learning setting.
Okay.
And at the museum it's informal learning, but children are still able to explore and discover. And
well, tell us and tell our audiences, lifelong learner means what? And problem-based learning, which you burned into my memory, means what?
Right. Well, lifelong learner means that we never stop learning. And in today's society, with all of the news that we have at our fingertips, it's just always there's an opportunity to learn something new, whether it's through Google or actually through our own research. And PBL, problem-based learning, means that we're just looking at authentic issues, things that affect us day to day, and trying to find creative ways to solve them.
For example?
For example, we are getting ready to embark upon a capital campaign at the museum, and one challenge that we have is always, you know, you need financial support to be able to do that. So we were trying to ponder creative ways to raise the money and to expand so that we have a larger space for the community of Akron to learn. An idea that some of our supporters had was to actually use the space that we currently have that's just temporary. It's where we intend to do our full expansion. Use it for something exciting, and we're actually building a Ninja Warrior course. I don't know if you've ever seen American Ninja Warrior.
I have.
Have you seen that?
So this is going to be like a kid's...
Yes, yes.
Oh, how cute.
So we're solving the problem of how do we create and generate revenue to be able to open the doors and expand so that we can have more community members. And so this is our creative way of trying to solve that problem.
I'm not going to ask you if you're going to finish that course. Because I watch the ones on TV and I'm like, well, I could never do that.
Well, there will be some really fun things, and it's a bunch of big kids that are designing the course, and so it's going to be a place that adults will want to engage also with play.
What are some similarities, as you kind of touched upon, that your expertise applies to the Children's Museum?
You know, we're making sure that we're preparing children for the future. When the STEM school came about, there were a lot of city leaders, the mayor and the superintendent of the schools, the president of our area university, who came together and said, how can we fill the shortage of STEM learners that exist? We know that across the nation, it's very competitive, and particularly at the high school level is where you really start to decide, what do I want to do for the rest of my life? You know, college, or am I career ready? ready. And so some of the similarities that exist is that we at the museum in this informal learning and play environment are also preparing children to be able to walk into those careers. I'll give you an example. We have about 22 interactive exhibits, and one of them is a little doctor's office sponsored by Akron Children's Hospital. Another is a veterinarian clinic. Another is the Little Monster Maker Space. These are all promoting STEM and helping children to see themselves in these roles as a young person, and then hopefully, you know, later as a middle schooler, high schooler, and then into college and beyond.
Well, talk to us. The mission of Children's Museum is to inspire exploration, discovery, problem solving for children and families.
Right.
Talk to us so that someone that's not in that environment can understand why it's important for play, you know, why it's important to inspire children. Can you talk to me about that?
Sure. If you think about some of Akron's history, and we've been known for innovation, you think about Goodyear, and it's opportunities like that. When you talk to associates perhaps at the career level, they say, we ask them, what were you like as a child? They were children who were curious, who were creative, who were thinking of ideas and thinking of things that didn't even exist. And this is where it starts. And so we don't want rote robots, you know, that we're shaping. We want people who can solve problems, who can be creative. Those 21st century skills, you know, critical thinkers.
Now, you mentioned Goodyear as one, and of course our history is Akron. Your website and literature talk about partnering with the business community. So can you tell us what types of collaborations will you be leveraging or wanting to be leveraging?
Oh, sure. You know, we had a Smucker's innovation team. They were at the museum the other day, and they wanted...
Did they bring you the little, what are those called, snackables?
Those little Crustables?
Crustables, yeah. Did they bring you any Crustables?
They did not bring any this time around, but it was just a team of associates who really wanted to immerse themselves in the environment for children, because they're trying to decide what are the new products that Smucker's wants to put out. So what better place to come and, you know, watch children and see how they play and how they learn and what their interests are. So Smucker's is actually one of our sponsors. The way that we hope to engage with the corporate community is really, I'll give you an example. The Little Monster Maker Space is sponsored by GPD Construction. Clearly, you think about GPD Construction, you think about the Little Monster Maker Space. It's a place for children to come and build things on their own with materials. So we really want to engage with the community in a way that allows children to have the experiences at the museum enhanced. We met with the Akron Canton Airport last week also, and they'd like to be able to support us by having an exhibit that supports aviation, and that's a perfect fit, a natural fit. So
now, would there ever in the future be, say, an exhibit at the airport then that promotes the Akron Children's Museum?
And that was part of our conversation also. They're going through construction right now, and once that construction is done, that's certainly something that they would like to see, so that the visitors to the airport who are coming from all over will have a chance to play while they're there.
Now, I half jokingly tell my clients that no one wants to be the world's best kept secret. You know, like I think that's like the worst thing in the world someone could tell you is that you're like the best kept secret. Like, who wants to be a secret? So how will you go about increasing community awareness and involvement?
Well, you know, it's kind of cool to be the best kept secret, but what's even cooler is to be a place that's, you know, hustling and bustling with activity and open to families from all across the area. One thing that we did within my first few months
because let's just set the record. So you've been there 3 months.
3 months, right.
And the museum has been there how long?
A little over a year, so since November 2016.
Okay. So you're both still very new in the neighborhood.
Right, right. So the first thing I did, well, we're going through strategic planning, trying to discern, you know, what are the 5 things that we want to be known for? What are the objectives and goals we want to meet in the next 5 years? One thing right away is developing a marketing plan, which we've already begun to do, and setting some goals so that we can build awareness. Actually, this weekend we will be taping some promotional videos so that we can really start to encourage people who are already members to renew. It's important that people are coming back to the museum and having a different experience when they come. So building awareness is one of the top priorities of us at the museum.
Now, I have to ask you, you know, I asked a similar question to Doug from the zoo one year. you know, why an Akron Zoo when there's a Cleveland Zoo?
Okay.
Which he did answer like really, really well. And I can still remember some of his answers. But what differentiates the Children's Museum from the Akron Art Museum? Because I would think as museums go, that's the first thing that comes to most people's you know, mind when they think of museum.
Right. Well, as a mom of 2 boys, Jackson's 14 and Justice is 10, but when they were, you know, smaller, I'd pack them up in the car, I'd take them 45 minutes away. For a new mom, you've got to time it just right, you know, between nap time, when they have to eat, when they've got to hit the restroom. So it's nice to be able, and I can remember the zoo, one of their campaigns was so close. And we feel the same way. We're so close that you can hop in the car and get to us in just about 10 or 15 minutes from wherever you are if you're here locally in the area. So that's, you know, one of the differentiators is that we're close by, we're small, you can come there, spend a few hours and still be able to interact in a different way each time that you're there. You know, one family said to me, they're like, I love it that it's small like this because I can stand in one place at the museum and I can like look all the way and I can like find my child, you know, within just a few moments. So it's, you know, bigger is not always better, but we love the Cleveland Children's Museum. We're wonderful partners with them. And we really want to focus on being Akron-centric and developing exhibits that promote the history of our community.
So when you talked about your 5-year plan, when you look down the road at that strategic plan, where do you see the museum 5 years from now that it is not at today?
Right, and we're embarking upon that strategic plan and involving community members to help us write that. But personally, where I see us is just growth, that our membership grows. In the first year, the museum had about 60,000 individuals that came through the museum and about 2,000 family memberships. I'd like to see us triple that. You know, we really want to be a place that attracts people, not just from the city of Akron, but from all across the region. In fact, people from about 44 different states have visited the museum since we've opened our doors.
Wow, that's great. Let me just take a moment to reintroduce our topic and our guest today. We're looking at a new player in the neighborhood of downtown Akron, and that's the Akron Children's Museum. They've been there just a little over a year. We're talking with their new executive director, Traci Buckner, who comes from a STEM background. If resources were limitless, what would the Children's Museum look like 10 years from now?
Wow, if resources were limitless, gosh, if I think about our co-founders, Ryan and Betsy Harshu, husband and wife, who had this idea to create a place of play, I think it would look like a place that had children that looked different, families that looked different. It would be not necessarily massive, but you know, an exciting place with varying exhibits. It would be really a center for STEM learning in an informal setting. That's really the goal, that we hope people will consider us for programming, for field trips, for outreach opportunities.
Now, along that line, let me ask you, in today's society, we often calculate value based on how something makes us different. Once we've been to something, how are we different as a result of that? So how would you say a child or a family is different after a visit to the museum than they were before?
There's a dad that sent us a message through Facebook Messenger. Ian G is his name. I won't say his last name, but he created a video of his child's experience from the time he and the son and daughter walked through the door to the time that they left. And everybody sees the way they engage with the exhibits in a different way. And it's just exciting that families all have their own interpretation of what was fun for them. So I think the variance, the variety that's available is exciting for families, because one thing that's of interest to one child may not necessarily be of interest to another. So there's something for everyone.
And in just a minute, I'm going to ask you about some of those exhibits.
Okay.
If I'm a family of 4, what type of programming would I see?
Well, you know, coming up, and I'm not exactly sure when this will air, but on April 22nd from 12 to 4 at the museum, we will have Earth Day Fun Fest with lots of vendors, lots of educational opportunities. Children will be able to come and create things out of recyclable materials to learn about the importance of being a sustainable environment. And that's just one way that we want to give back, because that's a program that's free for families.
Well, speaking of free, tell us, give us your website address,
Okay.
and tell us what the costs are involved in your hours.
Well, our website address is akronkids.org. Our hours are, we're open 6 days a week, so Tuesday through Saturday, and Tuesday through Friday, 10 to 5, Saturday and Sunday, 10 to 6.
Okay, so you don't go. You know, I had a really bad experience this morning. I went to Krispy Kreme and it was not open.
I had that same experience a couple of weeks ago. I mean, there was no notice. There was something in the paper. There was.
Was there?
I was complaining.
So
I said, you won't believe.
I know. That's what I said. I don't want someone to come to the Akron Children's Museum on a Monday and then go, oh my gosh, they're not open.
Monday's the only day we're not open, and when they do come, admission is just $5 for an adult or for a child.
Okay.
The family memberships are very a great value also. So for a family of 3, just $55 for the entire year.
And you can come as many times as you want.
As many times as you want.
Times you want. Okay. So now let's talk about some of the exhibits because they have some really fun names, and so I'd like to find out a little bit more about them.
Okay.
So we have Scale the Summit. And what do we do on Scale the Summit, and what do we learn?
Right, I'll tell you, there are 4 pillars that the museum's founded on, and health and wellness is one of them, and that's what you will experience with Scale the Summit. STEM is the other, arts and culture, and then civic and community engagement. But with Scale the Summit, kids can actually climb and scale this wooden exhibit that allows them to stretch and just really, burn some energy. So it's a wonderful alternative, especially in the winter time. We know Northeast Ohio, it's cold. It's like 32 degrees and it's April. So this is a chance to come in out of the cold and really just, exercise and stretch and move about.
Okay, now then tell us about the Nest.
The Nest is an exhibit. We're replacing the Nest with something, but the Nest was simply a place for, you could pretend that you were a bird and you can actually.
Oh, so you went in the nest, the kid went in the nest.
Yeah, the kids go in the nest and there's eggs and it's really exciting, but we'll be replacing it with a barn, which is in our Down on the Farm exhibit, and Kavanaugh will be sponsoring that, Kavanaugh Construction. And there will be a chicken coop, and so children will be able to learn, what's the process? Where does food come from? Right.
Is that connected to Farm to Table? That's another one of your exhibits. So
Yes.
Does that have to do with more with health and wellness?
It does have to do with health and wellness. We've got probably every vegetable you could possibly think of in a conveyor belt so that children can really begin to understand, how does the food get to our table? So that's one other thing that they're able to learn under the health and wellness pillar.
Healthy Little Monsters?
And our healthy little monsters.
I assume it's not all Lady Gaga's monsters, right?
Well, the monsters are actually, we had a really wonderful relationship with a designer who designed these monsters for us, and soon we'll be naming these monsters.
Wow.
But
I feel a contest coming.
Yeah, we may consider a contest to name those monsters, and we've got the little monster shop where people can actually come and purchase items like the mag formers, and Melissa and Doug has a really nice line that is developmentally appropriate for the age of children who visit the museum.
Curtain Call Theater, I assume, is for the more
arts and
theatrical?
culture.
Yes.
Right, and we have a wonderful partnership with Wondering Aesthetics, Kyle Josa in the community, and he's actually going to have a couple of shows coming up there this week. But this is a place that I taped a couple of girls. They actually had scripts and they were acting out their own play at our Curtain Call Theater. And who knows if
They could be getting an Oscar someday.
they could.
Or an Emmy, or something. I'll let you pick one. Excavation Station, Wind and Air, Discovery Ramps, Baby Zone Jumbo Box. Pick one and tell us
Oh, wow,
about it.
gosh. Okay, well, it's definitely between the excavation station and the jumbo blocks. I'll go with the jumbo blocks.
Okay.
They're large, giant-sized Legos. And the things that the kids create, they always amaze me. There was a few children who created a fort with a door, and they can go in and out. These are just giant blocks that allow them to create structures.
We talked about the hours. We talked about the website, Akron Kids.
Yes,
right?
akronkids.org.
Okay. I want to go in a little bit different direction. You represent a young, female, diverse leadership in the community. What would you want to tell a 10 or 15 or 20-year-old about their upcoming professional journey?
You know, because I live with a 10 and almost 15-year-old, what I always tell them is that you can be many things. You can have many talents. We're not just one-dimensional, people. We can have interest. We can explore those. I always tell them, like we always tell our kids, do something that makes you happy. But we also want them to do something that's going to be able to support themselves and families if they, end up having families down the line. So really just that you don't have to do and be one thing. You can have hobbies and interests, and if you're lucky, those hobbies and interests will be something that you get to wake up and do every single day.
Now, your career has taken some twists and turns from education. You're probably one of the very few people in education that actually leave education in any other way than retirement. But what would you say is one thread that, from your degree at Ohio State?
Yes.
Right? From your degree at Ohio State, then getting into education and then nonprofit and now the Akron Children's Museum. What is one thread that may not look to us like it's similar, but what do you see as one thread that has kind of woven through your different career paths?
I think the ability to be able to communicate effectively in no matter what setting that you're in, and to be able to understand people. And those are qualities that have served me well throughout all of the different experiences that I've had in my career.
Now I'm going to go to the lightning round, and I'm going to ask you for brief answers, okay, when possible.
All right.
Skyway or Swenson's?
Swenson's.
Because?
Oh, they've got those potato teasers that I learned about recently, and they've got that California drink.
My favorite.
Yummy, yeah.
Yes.
And I like their fish sandwich.
Okay. If you were a betting person, would you say LeBron goes this summer or stays?
No, he's staying.
He's staying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
One thing that would surprise people about Northeast Ohio, some of those people that come in through the Akron Canton Airport maybe have not been here before, one thing that would surprise them about Northeast Ohio?
I'd say our parks, the Cuyahoga Valley National Park.
The best part about having two boys?
The best part about having two boys is that they're always game to try something new.
Okay, okay. I thought for a second you were going to say they always ganged against you as being the only female. Any female dog, cat, hamster, nothing?
Just me.
Just you, okay. Best advice your mother ever gave you?
Make new friends, but keep the old. Some are silver and the other gold.
I like that. And this one stumped me. Somebody actually asked me this a few weeks ago, and they totally stumped me. What did you have for dinner last night?
I had sauteed spinach and some roasted potatoes and some chicken with like a sort of a gravy on top. And my son Justice said that the only thing missing were biscuits. Did have a little applesauce with that too.
Well, under the health and wellness of the museum, that sounds pretty good. I have one last question that I wonder if you could help me with. I was recently in a pottery barn for kids, and I was amazed at the toys they had there to keep the kids busy.
Right.
And they actually were playing with them.
Yeah.
I was surprised. I was surprised to see two little boys playing with tea set and playing. With Toys R Us stores closing, do you think there's a place for the Akron Children's Museum to fill a gap of that experiential that is really not just for kids in today's world?
Right,
Adults
right.
like experiential education too, but is there a gap there that the Akron Children's Museum can fill?
You know, I was just having this conversation with my staff. I have an awesome staff. They are, they said, we want to be like Disney, we want to be, an exciting place that draws people, and they are. They are wonderful. And one of the conversations we were having was, what if we could have, in our little monster shop, toys that were Akron-centric, and that we might actually be the go-to place for people who are looking for a birthday gift or, a gift for a party that they have to attend. So I think that that's one gap that we're going to aim to fill. And we've been talking with certain vendors, and I'm always excited to learn about the new toys that are Akron-made that we could actually have there at the museum. So we're definitely interested in those collaborations if other people would like to find out more about how they could be a part of our monster shop.
Well, you know, I'm a big fan of Shark Tank. And one time I saw Mark Cuban jump out of his seat to give $1 million to someone because he said experiential education is the coming.
Right.
So you are feeling experiential education. You are feeling that.
Right. You know, so oftentimes when children go to museums, they can look, but they cannot touch. We want them to touch and play and interact and figure out, you know, what things feel like, what things smell like, and
where
what
vegetables come from.
Right. And
they
what
don't
can
come
I create?
From the grocery store.
That's right. That's right.
Today we added to our vocabulary and to our mindset with words and concepts like lifelong learner and problem-based learning. We learned today to think about play a little differently than we've traditionally thought of that thing that used to just take place at recess. We learned the value of play and that play needs to start early and last a lifetime. Play inspires exploration, discovery, and problem solving. Akron Children's Museum, located at Lock 3, is ready for your child to scale the summit, visit the nest, and see Excavation Station on their first visit or on a regular basis. We congratulate Traci Buckner, the first executive director, our guest today. Thank you for joining us on our global outlook with a local view.
Forum 360 is brought to you with support from Electric Impulse Communications, Kim and Harvey Nelson, Rubber City Radio Group, Akronist.com, Hudson Cable, Medical Mutual of Ohio, Forum 360 supporters, and the Shaw Jewish Community Center of Akron.